Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2. I am so glad to see everybody here this morning. We've got lots of things on our agenda today, but I don't think there's anything that's overly daunting. So let's begin together by worshiping and praising the God that brought us together. I'm going to pass things over to our worship team.
Thank you so much, President Cheryl. Let's take a moment to center ourselves wherever you happen to be. Just, if you can, try and sit yourself calmly in the space where you are with your feet flat on the ground and just feel the connection between you and where you are. As we prepare to begin this day of our meeting, let's take a few moments to center our hearts and minds on God's presence. If you feel comfortable to do so, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and as you exhale, release the busyness of the world outside. Let's find peace in the silence, feel the love that surrounds us, recognize the unity that brings us together. In the quiet of this moment, let us invite God to guide our thoughts, words, and actions throughout this day. God of renewal, as we come together this morning, inspire us to be architects of hope and builders of community. Fuel our desire to reconnect with you, with one another, and with the world around us. Energize our spirits to revitalize our faith communities and to engage in the sacred work of love and justice. In your name we pray. Amen. Now I invite you all to join in singing wherever it is you are. We're going to raise our voices. I'm going to live so God can use me. And I know that some of you are going to be bopping in your seats. And so if you need to stand up and just shake all your wiggles out while you're singing this, feel free to do that.
So God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna live so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna work so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna work so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna pray so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna pray so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna sing so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime. I'm gonna sing so God can use me anywhere, Lord, anytime.
And a huge thank you to Mark for bringing his special flair. Amazing. Well, friends, I just want to welcome you and say good morning and invite you into this day. We've got lots ahead of us, and I invite us all to hold the work that we're doing today in the lens of renewal of our hearts and our minds. Now, President Cheryl has shared with us that renewal is one of her themes for this year, but it is so much more than just a theme. It is a call to action and a call to prayer and a call to transformation grounded in the words of Paul to the Romans, urging us not to conform, but to be renewed in our minds. And so as we journey through all of the pieces of our agenda work today, let's not lose sight of renewal. It's easy to get caught up in the mechanics of decision-making and discussion, but let's remember that each moment offers an opportunity for renewal, whether it's rebuilding trust or reconnecting with our roots or revitalizing our spirits for the work that lies ahead. And so, we got one more song here, Mark. We're going to jump back in and we're going to sing "Oh, a Song Must Rise." And I have to stay seated or else you only see like my middle part in the camera, but you know that I'm going to be standing in my head as we sing this together. Oh, a song must rise.
Oh, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend. Oh, a song must rise once again, singing out God's praises and glory, a faithful voices blend. Oh, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend. From the mountains to the valleys, from the desert to the sea, a song must rise once again. From the voices of our leaders, the voice of you and me, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend. Oh, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend. Oh, a song must rise once again, singing out God's praises and glory, the faithful voices blend. Oh, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend. From poverty and riches, from the voice of young and old, a song must rise once again. From the free and the imprisoned, the timid and the bold, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend. Oh, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend. Oh, a song must rise once again, singing out God's praises and glory, the faithful voices blend. Oh, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend. From every house of worship, in every faith and tongue, a song must rise once again. From the villages and cities, a song must be sung. A song must rise for the Spirit to descend. Oh, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend. Oh, a song must rise once again, singing out God's praises and glory, the faithful voices blend. Oh, a song must rise for the Spirit to descend.
And I'm going to turn it back over to President Cheryl. And thank you so much for singing along with us.
Well, thank you guys for getting us going this morning. We are moving and shaking and having a great time. Good. Thank you guys so much. I am going to take a moment before we get started to ask our equity supports person, George, to say a few words on something that is on all of our hearts, I think, this morning.
Thanks, Cheryl. I'm not wearing my equity support hat, but I just wanted to bring forward a care and concern. Someone known to many, if not all of us, Reverend Colin Swan, is in hospital. He had a serious situation and a serious operation. Though the doctors are hopeful, there's a long recovery ahead for Colin. And so just as we go forward, I wanted to ask for prayers for Colin and his family.
Thank you very much, George, for bringing that to us. And let's jump right in and get started with our look at the evaluation. And I'm going to turn it over to our acting executive minister.
Thank you very much, President Cheryl. Hello, everyone. I'm Acting Executive Minister Mark Laird. And so it is my pleasure to introduce us to this next section of today, which is a significant amount of time, which I think is helpful. So what we're going to be looking at next is, I'm sure we're all aware of the evaluation that was done of the structure and how we're living out our objectives and goals and purpose of all three regional councils in that we share staff with here in Southwestern Ontario. It was conducted by Bill Allen and Jenny Stevens during the beginning of 2023, and then there was feedback or summary of the report was sent out to people as well. And so what we're going to take some time today on is we are going to have a look at some of the recommendations that were presented by Bill and Jenny, and look at how we think we can, as a regional council, live into some of these recommendations, or what ideas there are for them. So just so people understand a little bit for the process for what we're doing, and we'll explain how we're going to get into these breakout rooms in a little bit. I'll get our tech person Michelle to explain that to us in a second. But in the workbook, we're starting on page 17 in the workbook, is kind of gives an outline of what this is. And then there are breakout groups. So unlike yesterday, where you were just sent to a breakout room, this is going to be one where it's self-selected. So in the workbook, there are 9 different breakout rooms. And so you can choose which conversation you would like to be a part of, which conversation you feel strongly about, that you think there's something that that you have to contribute, or that you want to just hear that conversation. And then you can choose that breakout room, and you can join it and have the conversation. We are going to have an hour in the breakout rooms, because some of the rooms might have 15 or 20 people. Some rooms might have 6. It'll completely depend on what is drawing people's hearts and minds at this time for where they're going to go. And so if it is a breakout room with more people, we obviously wanted to give enough time that everyone can have the conversation. And it's important enough to give the time to have the conversation anyway. So just a couple of notes for moving into those breakout rooms. The first is to try to remember that this isn't meant to be a complaint session. It's not meant to be, oh, well, these are all the things that are wrong. It's meant to be a visioning session. So some things might need to be mentioned where there have been challenges, but the hope is that it's a process to be able to brainstorm and to be able to dream and to be able to see how can we move forward with some of this stuff. And so as a part of that, maybe you have an idea, but it just seems too big. Either for whatever reason, there's a number of reasons why we think that some ideas don't work or might not work. I would suggest you say it anyway, because whatever you say might trigger somebody else's and might be able to get a different idea to come forward out of that. So please don't be afraid to mention something that might seem unattainable, because who knows what the future will bring for that. The other thing to note is that unfortunately, you can only choose one room. We're not going to be switching from room to room because that just gets more complicated, and we won't have time in later today to do a second session. So the rooms, the names of the rooms have just been put in the chat. So if you haven't had a chance to look, you can have a quick look and see which one might draw your attention. If there is another room that you're like, oh, but there's two that I like equally and I don't know which one I want to go to, you can always write down your thoughts for that other room and send those in separately as well for that other topic, and that is just fine. What we're going to do is each breakout room has a facilitator that has already been chosen, is a member of the executive or one of the commissions, and their role is going to be just facilitating the conversation. So that's also important because we have 9 rooms. Each room has a different topic. So we'd really like the room to try to stay on the topic that you have. We realize that there is some overlap in some of them, but to try to stay focused. And so that's hopefully how the facilitator can help. What we don't have is recorders for every room. And so that is going to be the first job in the breakout room of the facilitator, is to see if there is someone who's willing to record the conversations. And then at the end of the conversations, to please email what you have to myself at mlaird@united-church.ca. And we will then compile all of the records from each of the breakout rooms and put it into one document to then, give to the executive and the commissions and the staff, and then figure out how we want to share that more widely. But it will be given to those that are helping to work on some of the implementation of some of the ideas out of the review. One thing that would be very helpful, just from the beauty of having 3 regional councils, is that by the time we get to the 3rd one, we realize what might not have worked very well in the first 2, and can help with that. So if at the very least, the note takers, when you come back in, if you don't send the notes today, if you could private message me or email me to tell me who you are, because we have one group from one of the other regional councils that I haven't got the note yet, and I don't know who the note taker was in that group, because it was self-selected during that time. So that would be helpful, just so then if they don't come, we can try to, it's a little bit easier to try to track someone down to get the information, because we want to hear the conversation. That's the point of doing all of this. So if the information isn't passed on, then it's just the people in your group that get that wisdom, not the wider regional council. And then the last thing I just want to say is try to have fun with it. We are trying to look at how we can be better as a regional council on the whole, and to remember that as well. The regional council is not the staff. It's not the leadership of the executive and commissions. We all make up the regional council. So if there's something in your breakout room that someone's like, oh, this is what maybe the regional councils could do, and you're like, oh, I can do that, then add that in the notes so that we have people's names and that we have that idea, because we all who are here make up Antler River Watershed. And so it's up to all of us to make sure that it is flourishing and working the way that we want to. Just trying to think if I've missed anything. I think that's basically what I wanted to say on the introductions. Does anyone have any questions for clarification for what this process is going to be for this next? You could use your raised hand function that's in the reactions, or it might be under the more section of the 3 dots, if anyone has any questions on what's going to be happening next here. I'll also say, I hope that those who are on the executive and the commissions that volunteered when we were at our in-person meeting remembered that you volunteered to lead a group. I'd remember what group you volunteered for. Sure. Sue has the list of the facilitators, so she's going to put that in the chat while Michelle is. Oh, she's just going to share a screen. So there we go. All right. So as you can see, at the time we didn't get someone for group 8. So lucky group 8, that's going to be me. Greg, Richard, Louise, Dave, Carrie, Tracy, Linda, and Tabitha, please make sure you're going to your group. And if there is, you get to a group and you realize, oh, we don't have a facilitator, it is fine to just ask someone in the group to facilitate the conversation to make sure that all voices are heard. That's really, and make sure you stay on topic. That is really the goal, because I haven't checked to make sure all of them are in the meeting. And as we know, emergencies can come up, so it could be that someone is not here. I'm not seeing any questions for clarification. So, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I am tech support for Antler River Watershed. Just a couple of things to note before we go into the breakout rooms. When you'll see the invitation, it should appear on the right-hand corner at the bottom of your screen. You just click it, and then you scroll through all the names, and at the very bottom will be the list of the 9 rooms, and just pick the room that you want to go to. And they'll be numbered 1 to 9 with a shortened version of what those rooms are about. If you have any trouble and you're in the main room and you haven't gone to the breakout session, I want you just to raise your fingers as to what number of room you want to go into, the one that was of interest to you. And then Sue Doolittle, John Neff, and myself will move you into those rooms. So if you find yourself still in the main session, just put up, I want room 4, I want room 2. You don't have to unmute yourself. We'll just see you and we'll automatically move you to that room. I think that's all I've got. Okay.
Thank you, Michelle. So again, we'll have an hour for this conversation. We're not going to have any formal report back after the conversation. That's why we're having a note taker to have the notes sent in. And so, as I said, that's where also, if you have ideas that you want to add for a different group that you're not in, send those notes to me as well, and they'll get added into the compilation of the entire document. So if we're ready to start the breakout rooms, that would be great.
Okay, here we go. Okay, Mark.
Okay, thank you everyone for partaking in that conversation. Hopefully you found that helpful. I know the group that I was facilitating, we were a small group, and we're wondering if the 7 of us would be able to fill the hour. And yet somehow we managed to do that. It was great. I hope you found that useful. I will say thank you already, so that my email is in the chat there, and gold star goes to whichever breakout room. I just have an email, but not, someone has already sent me their notes. So if you have already sent me your notes by email, gold star to you. So know that, thank you very much. So if you're not going to send me your notes today, please private message me. Please private message me in the chat here, so that I know at least who you are as the recorder for each group, so that if something comes up and you haven't got the notes in, I can know that as well. So question in the chat. A lot of these topics do overlap. There's interest in lots. So the hope is, what we're going to do is compile it all into one document. That information is first going to be shared with the executive and the commissions working there, but then the executive will figure out how we want to share this more widely. I know one of the other regional councils, what they have said is, because there's lots of different information in there, they didn't necessarily want it all just on the website. So they've put a note up saying, if you would like these notes, please email this person and we will send you a copy of them. Just to, in case there is things said that we don't want anyone in the world to be able to read, sort of thing. But the executive will make those decisions. But thank you all so very much for your time, for your commitment, because and for your discussion in such an important conversation. I'll pass it back to you now, President Cheryl.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you to everybody who participated in the discussions. It was lovely to see so much discussions going on. I know we were lots of conversations going on in this particular room anyways. So wonderful. Thank you very much. At this time, we have a wonderful celebration happening this afternoon at St. Andrew's United Church in St. Thomas. And at this time, we are going to hear from our candidate, Janine Lunn. And I think Lori O'Leary, you're going to, I think I saw her come. Yeah, they're both videos. Okay. So we have some videos to show you.
Hello friends, my name is Lori O'Leary and I am the chairperson of the Southwestern Ontario Candidacy Board. Today I have the privilege of introducing candidate for ordination, Janine Lunn. Janine comes to ministry in the United Church of Canada with strong ties to farming and rural life. Her discernment committee had these comments in their commendation at the beginning of Janine's journey in 2017. Janine is grounded through her faith in God. Caring and compassionate, relates well to others. She has a gift of music, strong pastoral care skills, and a passion for outreach and justice, to name but a few things. Her lay supervision team had these comments to make recently. Janine is a gift to us in the United Church of Canada. She has the ability and the intuition to relate to scripture and theology in a very personable, relatable, compassionate, and interactive way, making her congregation members feeling fulfilled and empowered when they leave worship or an event. She is real. Definitely a candidate for ordination. The committee heartily endorses Janine be ordained. The Southwestern Ontario Candidacy Board both celebrates and affirms these gifts of Janine. She demonstrates an understanding that learning is ongoing and lifelong. She appreciates that ministry is about community and relationships. She is willing to meet others where they are and has empathy for others that was felt in all of her responses to our queries in her interview. She has many gifts that will be assets to the United Church of Canada. In each of these three views of Janine, taken along her candidacy pathway, the Candidacy Board has interviewed Janine and deemed that she is indeed ready for ordination. Blessings to you, Janine, as we move forward and together to a celebration of your ministry. Many blessings and thanks.
Hello, my name is Janine Lunn, a candidate for ministry in the United Church of Canada. I've been asked to address the court today and reflect on a verse from Romans 12, chapter 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, this good and pleasing and perfect will. So as we reflect this weekend on the nature of rebuilding for the future, I take note that I myself am in two worlds that experience many types of change and renewal, worlds of farming and worlds of faith. It's interesting that many aspects of rebuilding for the future and renewal also apply in farm country. The need for regeneration, for recycling, and for resilience. It's tempting to follow all the distractions and demands and temptations of this world. So what can we as people of faith hold on to during times of change? To be receptive to what the Spirit is nudging us to notice and do. To rebuild, our confidence, our plans, and dreams for this church, to reconnect our communities, our rituals, and our gifts to our purpose, and finally, to revitalize. In order for newness to emerge, we need different seasons, some of rest, some of planting, some of reaching out of the muck of the past, and leaving some of the old behind, but also honoring those deep roots of what we've learned as we finally grow forward. I look forward to being part of this interesting and challenging and exciting time of renewal in our United Church. And when we undertake this work to renew our spirits and our minds, I know that God is with us. Rich soil, indeed.
Thank you for those videos, and I look forward to celebrating this afternoon with Janine and with you folks. And I look forward to welcoming you to St. Andrew's United Church. And that's 4 o'clock, 60 West Ave in St. Thomas. And yeah, we look forward to having a wonderful afternoon. Oh, yes, and it is live streamed. That is correct, through Antler River and the National Church, I believe. But I'm not 100% certain on that. Michelle will tell us, I'm sure. Okay. Because she knows everything about tech world. It's amazing. And at this time, we're going to, the fun stuff of the day, the budget report. I am going to turn it back to Mark. And Doug, yes.
Why don't you, so this is Acting Executive Minister Mark Laird. Doug, why don't you introduce yourself? And then you can start leading us through the proposal if you'd like.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's Doug Cameron here. I'm the treasurer of Antler River Watershed Region, and I'm going to run through some facts and figures regarding the 2024 budget and a review of the 2022 financial audited statements. So if you look on page 23, proposal number 2, the budget for 24. What is the issue? The issue is transparency and accountability are the key elements of any financial management organization. And establishing a budget is one of the steps in this process. And today we're going to look at the 2024 budget. The council, we're still becoming familiar with this new accounting system. We're finally getting our ducks in a row, combining the income sources of all the previous presbyteries, and we're getting them joined into one common financial statement now. We receive our income from 2 grants from General Council, the assessment grant, which is used for governance and shared services, and a mission and service grant, which is for mission and ministry work. And we also receive funds from our investment income. We get a 50% grant from the Archives Reserve Fund to cover 50% of our share of the archives. And we also receive 25% of all proceeds from disbanding congregations. And these expenses are listed on your on that budget sheet, page 23, the different ministries, the purpose, and the cost of the sharing of those funds. The Regional Council has established an investment policy and created an investment portfolio that it anticipates will help address the gap between increasing expenses and diminishing grants. And I'll report more on this when we go through the budget. So what might the council can do? We can do several things. We can receive the internal 2023 operating statement to date for information. We can receive the 2022 auditor's report, and we can endorse the following principles, which were guidelines for establishing the 2024 budget. And these were, we increased the operating expenses by 4.5%, which is in line with inflation and as the basis for our investment income. And we prioritized the mission and service grants. we got adopted, we got to appoint our auditors for the 2023 financial year. And we can also adopt the proposed 2024 budget, authorizing the executive to adapt as necessary within the above guidelines. So, what do you want to do first? You want to go through the financial statements first, Mark?
No. This is Acting Executive Mark again. They're in the workbook. So I think what we can do is, if people have questions for clarification, if you have something that you want to just summarize, but I don't think we have to go through line for line, as that information is there. But if you want to just summarize what where we're at, and just to for people to be clear, the year to date is as of the end of August. It's not up to the end of September. It's as of the end of August, just so people know. But yeah, if you want to summarize, or we can just start, we have the proposal in front of us, so we can just open it for questions of clarification, and that might, if anyone has some, then that might, we might get those answers that way as well.
Mark, there's a couple of things I wanted to maybe highlight on the budget there.
Sure.
That's found on page 25. The year to date. Hang on, I've got to get my. Receive the internal 2023 operating statement to date for information. You can find that. That's the middle column on page 25. And that's to October 30 or August 31st, as Mark has already stated. And these are not maybe the true expenses to August 31st, because some people have expense accounts that they haven't submitted yet, that are some request funds quarterly, some annually. So we won't know the exact figure of our 2023 year until December 31st. But as you can see, that the figures are in line pretty much with our budget. We're not quite three quarters through the year, and the budget figures are pretty well right on. We still got a surplus of $15,700, and we anticipate that we have no more major expenses, and we anticipate that will get us through the pretty much the end of the year. Now on the 2024 budget, two things I want to highlight. Under income, mission and support. For the last several years since we changed governance, we've received $240 for mission and service grants. This year, we're only receiving $180,000. The other thing I want to highlight is investment income. Last year, or for this year, 2023, we budgeted $27,000. Next year, we're budgeting $65,000. So this will help offset some of the reduced income from the general counsel office. So like Mark says, we'll leave it open to questions right now. If anybody has any questions, we'll try to answer them, and then we'll move forward.
Sure. And just as a reminder for the process, so this is our proposal. So these are questions for clarification. So at this point, it's not necessarily opinion of, oh, I think we should spend this money here. It's if you have a question for clarification to help you understand what has been presented in the workbook. Sorry,
my question.
Sorry. Go ahead, Michelle. Sorry, I was just double checking with the president if she wanted me to facilitate this or her. So it is going to be me. So yes, Michelle, could you please introduce yourself and then go ahead with your question.
I'm Michelle from White Oaks United Church in London, Ontario, and my question is about that increase in the projected investment income. Is that we think that we're making an extra $30,000 in investment income, or are we drawing down investments in order to get to $65,000?
No, this is actual additional income, not our principal. This is actual, and that's based on a 4.5% return, which was sort of an acceptable figure in the financial industry. So no, that's over and above our principal. We're not going to be drawing that down that we anticipate. No.
Thank you for your question. And just to clarify as well, the concept of the 4.5% is that some years it might be higher than that. Some years it might be lower, but over a long projection, if you try to use 4.5 every year, it kind of evens out over the long term is what the understanding is anyway. Marg, I see your hand is up.
Okay, my question is whether or not that investment includes money invested in oil and gas.
No, it's not.
Thank you.
We have an investment policy. Antler River Waterways has an investment policy, and those types of investments, cigarettes, energy, that is not included in any of our funds.
Does anyone else have any other questions for clarification on this proposal, specifically, obviously around the budget, but then around the what the regional council might do with the receiving these pieces, appointing the auditors, approving the budget? Are there any other questions for clarification around this? I'll give people a couple seconds, just because sometimes I know it can be hard to find your hand button when we're on Zoom. Just like when we're in person, sometimes it takes a while to walk to the microphone or decide you want to walk to the microphone and then do that. I'm not seeing any other hands. So Doug, you must have explained things just oh, I was just right there at the end. Susan, go ahead.
So
Okay.
close. I want to ask on page 25, under communities of faith, what are CSC meetings and CSC events, and why aren't we spending the money?
Well, that's a good question.
Excellent.
I don't know why they're spending the money. You have to talk with those commissions.
Okay, so CSC, I can answer that. Susan, that stands for Congregational Support Commission. So it's just, it's too long to write the whole commission name in there. So that's Congregational Support Commission, just like the HRC is Human Resources Commission meetings under Pastoral Relations, and then D and J is Discipleship and Justice Commissions. So part of why the meeting budget isn't spent is because that is really for in-person meetings for the commissions, and most of the meetings are done online, so there isn't actually a large expense in that, which is why you can see in 2024 for all of the executive and the commissions, the meeting portion of the budget has been
Reduced.
has been reduced, because we just know we're not spending that much money. For the events, those are things like workshops and other things like that. And so it depends on what workshops have been done by those commissions. And as Doug said, it can be because of how the accounting system works with the General Counsel office. Sometimes everything gets sent to one regional council, and then the General Counsel office separates it out later in the year. So it could be that there are more funds in or have been used, and they just haven't been separated out yet.
Okay, so there is money for in-person meetings, but we are choosing not to spend it unless there is a big whack of, 14,500 plus that has been spent that is just not recorded yet in these statements, right?
Yeah, well, and for the commission meetings, it's a matter of money, but it's also a matter of time, because the regional council is large, right? If, like, for example, for me to come to this meeting was a 2.5-hour drive, to be in person, and for everyone to meet. For the commission, you could have people in Windsor, and you could have people in London, and you could have on the commissions. And so to meet in person takes up a whole day of people's time for a couple of hours.
I understand how geography works. Got it.
No, I know, but that's why we do it online.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Susan. Kenji?
Thank you. Kenji Marui, Grace United Church in Sarnia. I understand the reasoning and the logic behind budgeting for 4.5% or whatever that number was. But we've received, churches or ministry personnel have received notice that the projected cost of living increase for next year is going to be 6.3% increase. Like, with that information, like, is that a factor in what we might need to do? And I know it, is also unevenly applied between congregations and regional staff. And so I just wondered if you could just maybe talk through some of the implications of that, please.
Sure, definitely can. So for oh, I'm getting an echo. Sorry. Oh, there. Good. We're good. So the general council, when that went out for the increase for clergy serving in a congregation, it was the 6.3. For staff of regional council or general council office, the increase is 2%. And so it is lower than the 6.3. We're using the 4.5 as based on the information of best practices that was given to the regions by the general council financial people. So that's what we're just going with for right now. But the staffing costs haven't been that cost of inflation of the 4.5, because we know what the staffing costs are because we have that percent. I hope that helps.
Okay. Mark, if I might, on page 26, third line from the top, our regional council meetings, we've increased that budget by about 10%. It was 30,000 this year. Next year, we've put in there 34,500, because we're anticipating going back to in-person spring meeting, if that's, and that's going to be held.
And that's also, that was the 4.5% was to get to the 34 as well. Yeah. Rob, do you have a question?
Just a confirmation that the last two lines on page 26 are the total expense and the difference from the total revenue, and nothing to do with the mission support grants.
They do.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah. Mission support grants is a single line. And then the total is the total difference, and the total difference. The mission support grants, because we don't know, you will notice in the actuals, there is nothing under mission support grants there, because they get spread out throughout the budget in the type of ministry that they are sent. So for example, you can see there's mission support grants under social justice and outreach, but we budget them on a separate line for the expense, because we don't know where those are going to go until they have been received and have been sent out. So you're right, it is separate. It is unfortunate that it just got cut off in that way, that it makes it look like it's part of the total, but it is not. But it's part of the total expense, but it's not part of that, the last two titles, the last two numbers, if that helps.
Okay.
And we're showing a deficit of almost 51,000 as well for next year. But we don't anticipate come the end of next year that it's going to be a full minus negative $50,000, because history has shown us in the past that everybody doesn't use their full budgeted amount of the commissions. And if it by chance it is overrun, a difference of minus 50,000, then we might have to go into our reserves. But we have sufficient reserves to cover any overruns.
Right. And as the example to that, just last year for 2023, the region approved a deficit budget of 43,851. And as of the end of August, the region was actually at a surplus of 15,714. So again, showing that while the deficit budget was approved, we at the end of August, we were not running nearly in that form of deficit. Catherine, do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. My phone just rang. My question is
can you just introduce yourself first, please? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Catherine Collins Barker from Windsor. And my question is regarding the fact that we had a discussion last evening that the pastoral charge supervision might be going towards getting paid. yes, the pastoral charge would be paying the supervisors for their time, but one of the questions that came up is that the region would be covering the expenses for travel. Is that included in this budget?
My understanding is that that would be a part of the congregational supports budget that they have for under meeting and events, is my understanding of that.
That's true, Mark.
Do we have a figure on that? Because I mean, one of the things is, I mean, it's an unknown because you don't know everybody that needs all supervision, but is there a general, like a general target number? Because I think that's one of the things is if you're going to start paying people to do some stuff that wasn't paid before, it needs to be tracked properly so that future understanding of what the cost will be clarified.
Thank you. I think Lynn can speak to that. Go ahead, Lynn.
Right.
Can
So
you introduce yourself again, please?
Yeah, so Lynn Allen, Minister for Congregational Support. The Regional Council has been covering mileage for pastoral charge supervisors since we began. We also encourage them to meet by Zoom whenever possible, and it's at their discretion whether they send in their expense sheets. So that cost has already been borne. I believe it's being covered by the region rather than the Congregational Support Commission, but I'm not sure how the internal accounting happens. So I don't anticipate an increase in the mileage cost to the Regional Council.
Okay.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for your question, Catherine. That's what I was going to say, but it's better coming from the person who's actually doing it. So thank you. Are there any other questions for clarification at this time? I like all the questions because it means people are engaged. That is wonderful. Lots of times for this sort of stuff, sometimes people, you just eyes glaze over and you just let it go. The questions are, apparently like Sue Doolban. So it's good. I'm very happy that I'm very happy to have the engagement because it is important for people to be engaged in this work of the Regional Council because we are all the Regional Council. So I'm not seeing any more questions for clarification. So now would be the point of asking if there's anything in the proposal before we move and seconded it, anything to make it better. So that is the receiving the internal 2023 operating statement for information, receiving the auditor's report, endorse the principles of 4.5% for inflation and investment income, prioritize mission and service grants, and then appointing KPMG LLP as auditors for the 2023 financial year and adopting the proposed budget, authorizing the executive to adapt as necessary within the above guidelines. Is there any, so if you have something that you would like to possibly add or discuss about this proposal to try to improve it, before we move into the motion, I ask you to raise your hand now. Dave, can you introduce yourself again, please?
Yes. Hi, Dave Whiting from Villages United Church. I'm not sure exactly what it means to say prioritize mission and service grant.
Okay, I can
I'm wondering if it has to do with the fact that the amount that we, sorry.
No, that's fine. I can explain that. So that we, as Doug had said, we received $60,000 less from the General Council in our mission and service assessment that was given to us. But with receiving $60,000 less to make up our budget, we did not decrease the amount given or available to be given in mission and service grants this year. That's what we use the investment income and other things to try to do that. So that's what it's saying by presenting or by prioritizing, is that we didn't do whatever you can to not.
If we're using our increased, right. If in a future year interest rates are lower and we have less income we may just be delaying it by a year or two, that we do need to reduce the amount that we grant for mission support. But for now, we're trying to keep it at the same level. Is that?
Exactly. Yep.
That's my understanding.
And Mark, one thing that
So that I can see who's got their hands.
we don't know how many churches are going to disband in the future. That's an unknown fact. But there will be additional income coming to Antler River through disbanding congregations that we can use to create more investment dollars to cover some of these future expenses.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm going to just ask President Cheryl to.
Yeah, okay, so are there any more questions to make these things better? Okay. I can't tell if there was any more hands up. No more questions at this time. I'll just give you a couple more seconds in case somebody's trying to find that button, the magic button. Yeah, that's a second if I can. Okay, if not, we will move the budget. Moved by Doug.
Somebody has their hand up.
Oh, somebody, oh, thank you. Angie, would you?
I can see Susan McGilveen.
Oh, see, oh, yep, I see it. Okay, thank you. Susan.
She's muted.
Can you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Sorry, I muted myself a couple times and it didn't take. Avondale, Tilsonburg, and Otterville United Churches, Susan McElveen. That income that's coming from disbanding congregations, I'm wondering where that is recorded in the statements, just so that I can track it in future.
You will see that in our financial it's not on this budget sheet. It's in our financial statements. It's recorded there.
So it goes directly to investments. It doesn't go through this budget of operating expenses?
No.
From when we have a disbanding congregation, we have, active executive, Mr. Mark speaking, we have a property policy and the money goes into our property fund.
And because we don't know what that is going to be, we don't
have a budgeted line each year for how much property we're going to get. So that is why we have the audited statements. That information is in the audited financial statements, but is not a part of our operating budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Mark Murray, would you care to introduce yourself and ask your question?
Mark Murray from Mount Elgin United Church. I was just, so at one point I did, if you would just remind me, a certain percentage of that was to go to Indigenous people, was it not, of the property fund? Yep. How much is
correct?
That?
Oh, I think 12.5%. I can supply that figure for you.
Okay. Yeah, we have a full property policy that is broken up between many areas, and then as
Mark, I've got it right here.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
15 of all net proceeds from a disbanding congregation, 15% goes to Indigenous ministries within the church. 12.5% goes to Mission Service Fund within the church. 12.5% goes to the Mission Service Endowment Fund within the church. 2% goes to Ontario Regional Council Archives Fund, and 25% is maintained by the Regional Council. And that just goes into our general fund.
Okay, so maybe sometime we want to look at increasing that in terms of the monies that in terms of our truth and reconciliation efforts, right?
Well, these were passed by the executive or the, I'm not sure, the executive or the full council of Antler River, these figures.
Right. Yeah. So that would be, so that's something that we would put on the agenda for property, I believe, would be have to look at that and then bring it a motion to the whole council at another meeting.
We're looking at restructuring the church, but one of the issues always is what, you know, the land that we have, and some congregations are giving all of the land back directly, but I'm just saying that maybe that's something we want to consider.
Thank you. We'll make note of that for future. Okay, let's go to the question then. Are we ready for the question? Oh, yes, sorry. Moved by Doug and seconded by Carrie Stover. All right. And we're voting. Just a few seconds left on that vote. Looks like everybody has voted anyways. Excellent. And we are passed. Hey folks, this is a record. We are 20 minutes ahead of schedule, so you can have that second sandwich today. Or maybe it's a second cup of coffee, I'm not sure. Or maybe both. We got 20 minutes. Let's so would help if I would unmute myself, not mute myself. Let's take a moment for grace. Creator God, we give you thanks for this wonderful time that we've been able to do your work in this church. We thank you now for a moment of peace, a moment of relaxation, and a moment to sustain ourselves for your continued work. We ask you to bless the gifts that have been given to us in the form of nutrition, that it may nourish our body, our souls, and our minds, so that we may continue your work this afternoon. Bless the hands that have prepared the food, those who grow it, and may we ever be mindful of those who go without. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Back at 12:10. Oh. Sue says 12:15 because 12:10 is just awkward. So 12:15, we'll see you back here. Take care.
Oh, good. Can I get a thumbs up from somebody to see if they can hear me? Awesome. Perfect. Okay. We had we actually just had a bit of a brief network connectivity thing, and then, yeah, but we're back. So Mark, do you want to play us in, please, sir?
Sure. And we'll do verses.
Yeah, we're just going to do verses 1 and 5. back, everyone. I hope you had a marvelous lunchtime, and I'll pass back to you, President Cheryl.
Why, thank you, sir, but it's Congregational Support and Commission time, so I believe we have a video featuring none other than Greg.
Hi friends, my name is Greg Simpson and I am the chair of the Antler River Watershed Region Congregational Support Commission. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what the Commission does and who we are. As the name says, we support congregations. Where we often find ourselves getting involved with a congregation is when they have questions, perhaps about what next steps might look like for them. Perhaps they're considering working together with a congregation down the road, maybe an amalgamation or a nesting, or maybe they're going to share ministry staff or other resources. These are places where the Congregational Support Commission really enjoys being part of the conversation and coming alongside, answering questions that you might have, offering resources, and connecting you to other people who have done similar things. There are a lot of different congregations who are struggling in lots of different ways, and we want to remind you a couple of things. You're not alone in this. Not only is the Congregational Support Commission there, the whole region is there with you and for you, but there are lots of other congregations who are working through the same sorts of things. And so if you share with us your stories, then we can connect you with other folks who maybe are a few steps down the same path, and they can talk to you about some hurdles they've encountered or the joy and hope they find in their own context. We also wind up helping out with the sale of buildings and answering questions about finances. We talk with you about your living faith story and your annual report. These are important details about who you are as a congregation. Those are the tools that we have to get to know you better. But getting to know you better is actually one of the most important parts that I want to talk to you about. The Congregational Support Commission really desires to know each and every congregation a little bit better. We can't just dash around to the whole region and come knock on your door and find out about you. But if you want to reach out and share some stories that you have, that would be amazing. Because I know that each of you are doing amazing and special things in ministry and in outreach in your communities. It might seem to you like it's obvious because that's just what you've always done, or maybe it's obvious because you reacted to a particular situation, and of course everybody would have done it. But your story is unique to you, and there are people all around the region who would love to know more about it, would love to celebrate with you. So we've collected a couple of stories that I want to share with you now so you can see what this might look like.
We started out in a rented refrigerated trailer and opened it from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night and hoped for the best. Part of the startup that we did was canvassing the neighborhood. I think it was a 10-block radius. So we started putting out notices that we were running around the community. So we were getting donations from the grocery store and from some of the area residents and of course the congregation as well. And then applying for any type of little grants that we could get. Our service clubs in town, Kiwanis donates every month and has since basically we started. There's the Lions Club, the Optimist Club, the Rotary Club, both in Sarnia and Petrolia, Salvation Army that comes out twice a month to do hot lunch program. We have an adult disabled group that comes in and provides prepared meals for twice a month. The mobile market, the Inn of the Good Shepherd in Sarnia, comes out every Monday with fresh produce in season. The grocery store, Heidi's Independent grocery store here in Petrolia, we do food rescue with them twice a week. Hogan Pharmacy across the road, they give us and donate COVID test strips and Noxolone kits, samples of incontinence pads and underwear. We took a survey last summer. We average 35 people per day to go through. Some of the mentality out there is, well, if it's available, I better get it because it's not going to be here tomorrow. So we try to coach and teach that we are going to be here tomorrow. It's going to be restocked. Not sure what time of day we're going to stock it, but it is going to be stocked. When we got started, board here at the church, in our congregation, we're very strong in supporting the idea of, well, let's start a community refrigerator. And it was basically 8 people that volunteered from the church to help run it. But then right after we got started, we started taking in other community people into it. So now today I think there's 42. We're completely dependent on the community for donations. We have no government subsidy at all. If we go and apply for government funding, there's only so many dollars in the pot. So if they give to us, then they got to take away from somebody else. So far we've been able to have our community, our church, our grants, our people that donate to us financially, we've been able to run that way, and I think we want to try to continue to do that.
Blenheim United, prior to the pandemic, put their church up for sale, sold it, and have found a home at the Blenheim Community Funeral Home in their community room. And now they're in the process of finding how to expand their name, because so many people in the area think they're closed because they don't have a building. But they're very much alive, and so that's our first hurdle that we're starting with, is to tell everybody that we are alive. Kind of a resurrection story. Well, their numbers had been decreasing, as they are in a lot of our churches these days, and the sanctuary can seat 450, or could seat 450, and they were down to about 50 people. So they had this big chain around them and heating the building, and they had a lot of extra rooms that weren't being used, but cutting off the heat to 1 or 2 rooms just wasn't possible because of the way the building was constructed. So the building kind of became like an anchor that was just holding them in place and not giving them any freedom to really be the church in the community. It had become really a hardship to pay all of the upkeep, and of course with older buildings there's more and more work that has to be done on them. They've come into a new opportunity of, although it carries its own cons along with it, but it takes a shift in mindset. For some people that's easier than for others to shift that mindset. And maybe it's more giving them the permission to shift their mindset. They're not that church building. They're the church without the constraints of that building.
In southern Kent County, there's a collection of rural churches that have gotten together, started to get to know each other a little bit better. And now they gather on a monthly or semi-monthly basis to talk about what's going on well. Churches that are selling buildings and nesting, or another 2 that have decided to amalgamate, and they share their stories about what went well and what hurdles they encountered, which is giving other churches the courage to be bold and do ministry in new and beautiful ways where they are.
When we started this process of inviting the churches to come together in November of last year, there is no way we could have even guessed the plans that God had for the 9 churches over the last year. There are things that have happened that nobody could have predicted. We're still all in the conversation. We're still all kind of moving ahead, some faster than others, but we're still there.
There are so many other examples of great things going on in the region. We haven't had a chance to go and interview and collect stories with a camera, but I do want to share a few of them with you. I want to point first to Siloam United Church, and specifically Alison O'Connor, who is working with the Young at Heart program, which is a very inclusive program that works with people of all ages and all abilities to produce beautiful works of music and art. That is a wonderful example of how ministry and outreach is flourishing in a congregation. Sometimes it feels overwhelming to try and get all the resources necessary to pay for the staff to run programs that you know would be so helpful in your church or in your context. Well, there are many places across the region where churches are working together, sharing resources, not just sharing ministry staff, we're fairly familiar with that, but sharing other types of staff. You're already doing that. Think amongst yourselves of how many of you share the same bookkeeper. There's that one person who does like all the church books for an entire county. That is an example. Some of it is unofficial, like that, and then some of it is more official, where churches will come together and create shared services agreements around the people or the human resources, that they will collect their financial resources to be able to support an individual to do amazing work. While it is in my nature as a cheerleader to tell you all of the good news stories, it's also critically important that we pause for a moment and honor and say thank you to all of the good and faithful servants who've decided to disband as a congregation. Their ministry context has changed enough that continuing as they are is no longer a faithful decision. And so then each of those congregations or communities of faith decide how it is that they will honor the past, that they will deal with and work through the grief of endings and changes, and then give themselves the freedom to move on to beautiful new things. We honor all of those churches, all of those people, all those congregations who made tough decisions, but now see on the other side of that, that there is new life and resurrection in their spaces as well. We are all in this together. We're going to collectively grieve that the way we do ministry today is not the way it happened 60 years ago, but we're also going to find hope and joy in the midst of all of that. Please reach out to me or to Lynn Allen, who is our staff support. Reach out and let us know what you're struggling with. What are the things that are amazing? Don't use us as a last resort. We've got so much to share. We've got so many stories and resources that we can help you with. The Commission wants to say a huge thank you both to Reverend Lynn Allen, who is the Congregational Support Minister for Antler River Watershed Region and Horseshoe Falls Region, as well as Pratima Kakedia-Kinting, who is just such a huge help and support with all of our meetings and all of the behind-the-scenes things. If it weren't for them, we would really be lost. So thank you. Thank you to all of the support. Thank you to you for being the amazing people you are, doing ministry in the places you are. We will see you again soon. Bye for now.
Any wrap-up words there, Greg?
No, you've heard from me enough by now.
Never. Thank you very much for that wonderful report. And we are going to move into our proposal number 3. Selection of our GC 45 commissioners. Oh, so there we go. There's our proposal. You can.
Okay. This is Acting Executive Minister Mark. And so just to be clear, this is not electing commissioners right now. This is setting up the way that we will be electing commissioners at the spring meeting. This happened a couple of years ago when we had for GC 44. The way that we were going, that the regional council was going to select their commissioners at the spring meeting is decided in the fall. This is found in your workbook on pages. I have it in my workbook on page 40. And so the issue of this is that in the spring of 2024, we will be electing commissioners to the 45th General Council, which is going to be in Calgary in the summer of 2025. Having a process is important, as it's stated in the what is the issue. This is the second time the regional council will be electing commissioners, and the first time in the method that was adopted, it ended up being there were had to be a couple different ballots. The process, though, trying to be as inclusive as possible, did struggle in some ways, and at this next spring meeting, it is going to be a tri-regional meeting, which means that there will be time for ARW, Horseshoe Falls, and WOW to be meeting together in shared things. The moderator is coming to be a speaker for one, but there will also be separated times where each regional council can do their own piece. And so the challenge that will happen in the spring is because the times are separated, the staff support is not going to be able to be available for all three regional councils in the way that it might be in some other ways, as being scrutineers, as preparing ballots. And the spring meeting, as we have moved into this pattern, will also be a hybrid meeting where there will be people in person, but there will also probably be people online wanting to vote as well. And so creating multiple ballots in that format for both groups is challenging. And so what the proposal is for that was is being passed on by the executive to the regional council to decide is to close nominations for commissioners for GC 45 as of midnight on April 15th, 2024, to publicize that deadline in advance through the website, the newsletter, with registration materials to the meetings as well. And then to direct the executive to review those nominations with a view to ensure a diverse cohort of commissioners and alternates who bring both experience and new energy to the role and are committed to the preparation and online prior requirements for general council. And then to recruit this is again directing the executive to recruit any nominees to address gaps in representation. And then to vote on the slate as a whole at the spring 2024 regional council meeting, which is in line with what we did as a regional council in this past spring when voting on commissioners for the commissions and the executive. They were presented by a slate by the recruiting team at that time. The only other thing to say, sorry, President Cheryl, is just one of the things that was the challenge before that I forgot to mention was in accepting nominations from the floor, that also becomes a challenge with not necessarily having all the information from people and can be a scramble to get that information. And again, when you're online and in person, that can pose a challenge. So hence the deadline being before the meeting to give time for the executive to have the proper discernment and do the proper work that is needed in figuring out the slate to be brought forward. Okay, I think now I'm done, President Cheryl.
Thank you, Mark. So just to be clear, we're going to ask questions for clarification, but I also want to stress that we do have a mandate of diversity and inclusion, and when we're putting that slate together, we will definitely be keeping those in mind, and that's why we have the application process. So if there are any questions for clarification, please, now is the time to raise your hand. Marg Murray, would you care to identify yourself and pose your question?
Murray, Mount Elgin United Church. Just curious about the deadline is April the 15th, but if you don't get a good cross section, then the executive would actually fill in those, the executive would fill in the gaps before the 15th, or when?
So my understanding of this is that
the deadline is the 15th. Our meeting
is not until, like, the ARW meeting is not until May 24th, I believe. And so that's part of the reason for having the deadline ahead of the meeting, to give the executive time to do that work. And if there wasn't enough nominations of people put forward, or it did seem like there were gaps in that, then the executive would have time to approach people to then try to find that, to then bring that slate of names to the May 24th meeting. The executive is not, this is not the executive picking people and saying, this is a general council commissioner. It's putting together a slate saying, these are the people after we've done our discernment and have done the work. These are the people we are suggesting to be commissioners. And then it's up to the regional council to accept that as a slate at that meeting.
And if they don't accept it, then what happens?
Then it goes back to the executive for them to try to come up with a new slate of commissioners. If this proposal goes through that we're talking about today, it would go back to the executive to try to come up with a new slate of commissioners. Because if it's not accepted, perhaps there's, in that process, I'm hoping there would be conversation as to why it's not accepted, and the executive could take that into account to then try to come up with a new slate to present at that meeting.
So the executive would make the final decision.
They would still bring the new slate forward, and then the regional council would have a chance to vote on that new slate that is brought forward at that meeting.
Oh, it's probably, it's just nitpicking. I don't, if it all happened at the regional council meeting in May, the executive meets in May and sorts that out the very same day that the regional council is meeting.
If the original slate was turned down, was voted against, then the executive would work during that regional council meeting time to get a new slate together for the regional council meeting, because we need to vote at that regional council meeting. So the executive would work on, it's going to be a multiple day meeting. So when we're planning, I'm going to suggest that this is planned for the first day. So then if there's problems, then the executive has that evening to be working on it to bring something back the next day as well.
Thank you.
Susan, would you like to introduce yourself and pose your question, please?
Nothing would give me greater pleasure. I'm Susan McElvain. I serve Avondale United Church in Tillsonburg and Otterville United Church. So I'm trying to understand the process you're describing, because you're talking about our discernment, speaking of the executive's discernment, and I'm comparing that with the discernment of the church as it presents nominees. So am I understanding correctly, the process you've described here is essentially saying, if the discernment of the church in putting forward its nominees is that all of the nominees are white women between the ages of 60 and 80, you will set aside some of those nominees and pull other nominees to fill out a slate that you feel in your discernment represents the diversity goals?
So nominees come from people who say that they would like to be a commissioner.
Right.
Right. So if we only get people saying they'd like to be a commissioner from a specific demographic, as you described, and that's all we have for the 13 commissioners that we are electing, then it would be my understanding that the executive might tap some other people on the shoulder to try to say we have sorry, I'm missing the language I want.
A gap.
If we have a gap in that, the executive might tap some other people on the shoulder and say, hey, is this something you think you might be interested in for someone that might be able to fill one of those gaps in diversity that we're missing. If it so happens that we only get 10 or 13 people that just fit, as you said, a certain age and gender and race demographic.
So this would give the executive the power to override the nominations of the discernment of the church as a whole in the region.
It gives the executive it's giving the executive the chance to present a slate by discerning those who have brought their names forward, and if there are gaps in that slate, the executive has the chance to try to address those gaps by tapping other people on the shoulder to do that. And then anything that is then brought forward comes to the regional council to vote on as a whole.
So then in the nomination process, you are going to ask people who are being nominated to identify in terms of gender and race and age so that you can make your selections on whether there's a suitable slate.
The expression of interest form will have, as it did last time, has an area for people to self-identify in how they feel they have diversities to offer the church. So that is part of the expression of interest form that is that people will fill out to send in when they're saying that they'd like to put their name forth.
And when people choose not to self-identify on those nomination forms, how will you classify them?
If they choose not to self-identify in any of those categories that are on the forms, then we assume that they don't fit in any of those categories that are specifically on the form, and we take them for right. So if the question is on one of them, do you identify as Indigenous, and they don't click that, we're assuming then they're non-Indigenous. If the question is, do you identify as racialized, and they don't click that, we're assuming then that they consider themselves. Right, and there's a none choice on the form as well, that if you have no of the diversities selected, if you don't have any, then you can click none. Like, for example, myself being Caucasian, male, middle-aged, there's not many diversities that I would be able to check off on that form.
I wonder, I see that parliamentarian Brad has his hand up. I wonder if he has words that need to be discussed in this conversation.
Just wanted to ask Acting Mark for some clarification on the term slate of nominees, a term we traditionally use to suggest a closed list of nominees where the slate itself is voted on, as opposed to a list of nominees who could be voted on that fall within certain demographic categories. Do you understand the distinction I'm making?
I do, and this proposal is suggesting the closed list, that the executive is being given the task and trust of doing that discernment from those individuals, and is bringing forth a slate of saying these are the nominees that we are that after having done this discernment, that the executive is recommending to the regional council, and the regional council can vote on it as a whole.
But for clarity, the discernment about who would go on that closed list would be done by which group?
The executive.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I hope we didn't cut you off, Susan. Did we answer your question, I'm hoping?
Yep, I'm just concerned about the amount of power this concentrates in the hands of the executive. Thank you.
We do have the right as a region to turn that slate down if we feel that is not representative of what we need, correct? Thank you, Susan. I hope that helps. Is there any other questions? Questions for clarifications, that is. Susan Bedgood. Can you please unmute
Sorry,
yourself?
I didn't know I had raised my hand. I guess my biggest concern is that that we aren't getting to vote on, we have maybe 20 people apply for one category and we don't get to put our opinion about who we think would best represent. So that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, that's understandable. It does tend to get, I'm trying to figure out how the word so nice to say this. It can become quite time consuming, I think, if we do it, and we don't necessarily know everybody, and we would hate to miss somebody that may be a good candidate because we don't, that the court doesn't know them, that the council doesn't know, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's somebody who would be present at that meeting. It could be somebody from a congregation somewhere that may be very suited for the job, but not very well known by the greater court. I think I'm trying to put that in the right words. I'm not sure I'm getting my point across, Mark, or my... Is that helpful, Susan? It's more, the biggest thing is it saves the court a lot of time and labor by not voting for every single person individually, because it's a very onerous job. And when it's particularly at this tri-regional meeting, and we don't have the staff to do that, to sit in every meeting to be scrutineers and to come up with, and we're doing it hybrid. So then there might be people online as well that we have to take into consideration as well. So we're just trying to streamline the process a little bit more to make it, but we can still we will still, the executive is a very thoughtful group as well, and we will definitely be using, following the spirit to lead us into finding the candidates. And of course, the candidates are self-nominated. So we are definitely still leaving space for the spirit to move amongst us.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Catherine Collins Barker.
Hi, Cheryl. Hi, President Cheryl. I have a couple 2-point questions. When the things is, how many commissioners are going to be elected just from Antler River Watershed Regional Council? Okay, that's my first question. How many in total?
13 in total.
13 in total, including the president?
No.
And the executive minister?
No.
So that's 13 commissioners, not because of their position.
Correct.
Okay, that makes a big difference because of my next question. When it comes to the next question is there the age category still in place? I don't remember what the categories are of discernment and stuff like that, because that asks the questions.
We're so glad you asked, because we had Susan look that up for us.
That's good, because I remember when I was first ordained, I threw everything all off because I was ordained and I was under 30. I asked that question because it's really important to make sure that we do have different ages represented.
Absolutely.
And not just because of they click a box, but be people who are very engaged in what's going on in the church.
Yes. So would you like Susan to read that list of categories?
Please.
Absolutely.
Okay, the form as it was then is ministry or lay, youth or young adult. Please indicate your age group in 2022, 18 or under, 19 to 30, 31 or over. Please indicate if you identify as racialized or differently abled. And the choices there were none: racialized, differently abled. Please indicate if you identify as Indigenous, yes or no. Are you connected with a camping ministry? Yeah, so that's the ones specific to diversity.
Okay.
That helpful?
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mary Ann Ferris. Oh, sorry, that was just somebody. Too many things are popping up on my computer. I see there is a question. It's not. Oh, okay. Nope. Any other questions for clarification? Parliamentarian Brad.
Yes, Brad Morrison, Strathroy United Church. Could you describe the process that will be used at the executive meeting to vote on or decide for delegates where there's a surplus of people who have been nominated? Specifically, will the executive members get to vote on those people, or will administrative staff bring recommendations to executive to vote on?
The executive gets the information and we make the decision. I believe that is the...
By what process do you make the decision?
That's a good question.
I would say by discussion and discernment, by having a conversation around these are the people, these are the names, looking at the whole group, because we also know that some people can identify in more than one way, and so perhaps that comes into factor. If there is a couple of people who have identified, if we're needing if there is need of a specific marginalized group that is not being represented, and there's a couple of people, and we also don't have anyone at all, let's say, that is in the 18 to 20 age range, and one of those people is in both, then it's possible that gets brought into the conversation. But we don't have a specific process set up for that. It is a conversation and discernment by the members of the executive, trusting in the Spirit to lead them through.
And follow-up question, are those executive meetings open to people to observe, or are they closed sessions?
We don't know. That'll be something the executive can think about for moving forward. I don't have an answer to that right now. I'm sorry, Brad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just going to add to that it really depends on whose names come forward. Discussion has to be open. I feel, and since I have a voice then we have to have open dialogue and open conversation, and we definitely have to leave room for the Spirit and for discernment.
Just a point of clarification as well, as part of this, in case it wasn't made clear, anyone who is a member of the United Church of Canada living within the bounds of Antler River Watershed can put their name forward. So that's also part of the conversation around this, is because the example I used is I bet the court doesn't necessarily know who the recording secretary at President Cheryl's official board is. And all you would have is the piece of paper. But given the information to the executive, they then have time that's not time limited to a regional council meeting to research, and if they need to call someone or talk to someone or have conversations with people to get to know or have extra questions, then the executive has that time to do that background work as well, which would not be allowed or able to happen if there was just people brought forward to a regional council meeting in that way as well.
Susan, you have a question for clarification?
Yes, I was just wondering if we know how other regions are handling the same issue.
All I can speak to is the other regional councils. that I am a part of, and in Western Ontario Waterways and Horseshoe Falls Regional Council, they are. This proposal was brought to them, and they are undergoing it passed in both regional councils. I don't know for the rest of the country, though. I'm sorry.
Any other questions for clarification at this time? Okay. Yes, so then let's move into questions that could make this proposal better, maybe, if you have any suggestions. Yes, thank you, Tech J, for bringing that back up. Dave Whiting.
Yes, hello. Dave Whiting, Villages United Church. I'm wondering if there might be some way of making this a little bit of a hybrid. And I'm not sure exactly how to do it or what I would recommend. But what I'm thinking of is we have a number of identified groups. And let's say out of the 13 people that we want to elect, we have 7 people defined who fill the category of, fill the various categories that we want to make sure get some kind of representation. And then there's another 6 people who you could consider as being, these are just people elected at large. It could come from people who don't identify with any group. It could be, maybe we've got 3 people that identify as being racialized that are all really good people. And we're leaving it up to the executive to decide who should fit into those last 6 people. Would it be possible to do some kind of hybrid where the executive brings forward a slate of, here's the group of people that we think we need to have suitable diversity, and then allow an open election for the additional 5 or 6 places to just say, here's the slate of nominees. Can the regional council now determine who out of the 15 other candidates that we have, who are the 5 or 6 that should fill those other slots?
So are you thinking as an online voting process? Is this what you're...
Yeah, I don't know exactly how the process works because it's a hybrid meeting. It would probably have to be online. And then how do you include the people that are there to do it quickly? But it seems to me a lot of the concerns here are around giving the executive the power to decide the entire slate of people, when I feel like there should be some portion that is determined by the full body of members at the time of the meeting, rather than just, when you get down to those last few choices and you're not necessarily looking for somebody who fits into a certain category, how is the executive going to determine that this person is preferable to a different person,
I can try to help a little bit with that, Dave. I think I understand the concern there, and as part of the expression of interest, it is not just name your diversities. It is also name your gifts and skills, name your experience. Why do you want to do this? What brings you forward? So that information would also be there as a part of what the executive is is looking at for that. Just to know as well, like there is name the 13 people, and then there are also alternates. So and I can say that in all 3 of the regional councils in Southwestern Ontario, alternates were needed at this last general council. And I think we even ran out of alternates in one of them. I'm getting a nod. Yes, we did. So there will be the slate of the 13, and then others will be there as alternates to be able to fill in when someone is not able to. But that answers, at least, hopefully that answers your question of how will the executive decide on this last group, is that there will be other information to be discussed in there.
I think there were 2 hands up, but one of them has disappeared. So, Brad, did you?
Marg was first.
Oh, Marg was first. Well, her name disappeared, so I did not. Oh, there it is. I see it now. Okay, Marg, would you please, introduce yourself?
Yeah, Marg Murray, Monoghan. My concern is this predisposition we have to time, and I know that time is money. I mean, that's the rubric we live in the rest of our lives, but this is important work. And so gifts and skills, could not those people who are going to be elected, say by the larger council, regional council, they could each have a minute or something to do that, or 2 minutes to note their gifts and skills, if diversity isn't part of that. I'm concerned that and I know that you're careful about time. I just flag that as being, maybe this is something we need to spend more time on.
Okay, I appreciate your comment, and yes, I mean, things obviously, we're just doing the time for you, Marg, too. That's one thing you need to keep in mind, that it's not, we're just trying to conserve the time of the entire court, and the time would be put in, but it would be put in by your executive, I should say, not our executive, your executive too, because we are all members, we're all in this together. But the other thing, do you have any suggestions then of what we can add to this to make it more helpful for you?
President Cheryl, this is Michelle speaking, tech
Yes.
coach.
Yes.
Parliamentarian Brad would like to speak.
Okay, Parliamentarian Brad, absolutely.
Thank you, Brad Morrison, Strathroy United Church. Part of the torture of being parliamentarian is I have to look at these motions and ask myself, what would I say if somebody challenged it or asked for some point of order clarification? And so one of the questions I have is, what do we do with the closing of nominations formally, and then the act of actively nominating after the close of nominations? And then what do we do with the prerogative of the court to bring forth nominations on the floor of the meeting? How do we technically rule that that's out of order, given some of those complexities?
Mark, we want to handle that question, and Mr. Parliament.
I will do my best. So as per the first part, we handle the closing of nominations similarly to how we do it at meetings, is that we say nominations will be closed at this time, just like the close for business was at 9 p.m. last night for new business. It is something that is communicated out in all of the materials, as we say in point A, to make sure that people know that this is the deadline for nominations. We have a similar process for grant applications, for example, that sort of thing, that it's, yep, this is the deadline to do it. And that's what we have. And then for nominations, when we're there, it is open as the slate is being presented. As for nominations from the floor, at this current point in time, my thought process is if there needs to be a nomination from the floor, with this process that becomes challenging because the close of nominations for commissioners was going to be as of midnight, April 15th, 2024. And so I think if with the adoption of this proposal, if this proposal passes, then that is the, no, I'm going to change that, because the other part in here says recruit nominees to address gaps in representation. That's the piece I was missing. Thank you all for being with me while I sort this out as I'm talking. Nominations from the floor, if that was something that was very needed and the court really, really felt like it was important, my understanding would be that then the slate that was presented would be voted down, and that the reasoning and that suggestion that because there's a nominee from the floor that the entire court feels is very important to be included, then that goes back to the executive to work on a new slate, including that information, and that would fit under the recruiting nominees to address gaps in representation.
So technically nominations from delegates closes April 15th, but nominations actively pursued by the executive continues until the final vote on the slate.
That is my understanding of this, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the, you're making me earn my money today. Thank you for the questions.
President Cheryl, we are at time if we want to end.
Okay, so we are at time. I am told by our business and agenda person if we're going to end by 2:30. So are there any other questions coming forward? I don't see. Okay, so not seeing any more questions coming forward, and nobody has added anything that they want to see added to the proposal. So at this time, I am going to move for the vote, and sorry? Not. Sorry, I'll reword that. I'm not moving for the vote. The vote is moved by Carrie Stover and seconded by Greg Simpson. And it's now open for discussion. Oh, not voting just yet. Don't vote yet, please.
Sorry, that was a quick trigger finger.
Yeah. You have to wait for your vacation, John.
So it has been moved and seconded.
Yeah.
So the proposal that we have.
So the proposal in front of you is what we will be voting on, and that is what we are questioning at the moment.
I just have a question. I don't know if my hand went up.
But go ahead. Please identify yourself, because I'm not
Absolutely.
Sure.
Erin Sterling, St. Andrews United Church, Chatham. And I guess it's not a question so much as I'd like to speak in favor of the motion. And part of it being, I mean, I understand the efficiency required because of the uniqueness of the conglomeration of things next year. But also, I mean, there's been lots of conversation about like who are these nominees and giving executive the power. And I have to say, having sat through many regional councils and voting on many commissioners, how frequently I don't feel that I know all of them, and I can read through all of the materials, but still, still not feel that I necessarily know them, and giving, putting our trust in our executive that we have, and having the knowledge of the greater church that they have, in some ways, I think makes them perhaps qualified in ways that I don't always feel when making those votes. So I'm in favor of this for multiple reasons.
Thank you. Any other comments? Just give you another minute. Not even. Any other questions? Are we ready for the vote? All right, the proposal number 3 vote is there, so we're ready for the vote. And I will give you a minute to vote. Couple more seconds. Actually, everybody has voted, so we may as well just close the vote at this point, and I can say that it has indeed passed. Thank you very much for your consideration in this matter. And great conversations around it, I might add as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, President Cheryl. I just want to appreciate all the comments because
large number at the executive is on this call, and so has
heard everything that people have been saying to take into account. So the conversation and the discussion is needed and is deeply appreciated. So thank you, everyone who partook in that.
We are ready for community building. What is left on your heart? Well, Pam, I know she made a video, but so can we have the video, please?
Good afternoon. I think for a Zoom meeting, we've had a pretty good day. I mean, nothing compares to being in person, but we did pretty good today. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity that we were given to talk about the review evaluation. We as a planning team recognize that some of you would have liked to have joined more than one room. And we recognize that you would have had something valuable to contribute in more than one room. But unfortunately, unless we made this meeting at least one more day long, we were restricted in how much time we could give you. You may have noticed we did not have a community building session this morning, and that's why. We decided that the time to talk about the evaluation was so important that we allowed it to absorb the regular community building time, to give you more opportunity to speak, to have your say. We don't want anyone to leave here feeling burdened with an opinion or a comment or something helpful to have added that you just didn't get time to share. So we're giving you about 25 minutes in a breakout room to simply say what you need to say. What is on your heart? We ask that you or a self-appointed recorder in your room add your comments in the chat so the planning team and others can read them. You're also invited to email your valuable comments to the region for consideration as they work through the evaluation document. We want your voice to be heard. So in your breakout rooms, have a conversation with each other that addresses what is on your heart. Please give everyone an opportunity to share. And again, please record this conversation as best as you can in the chat. When the time is up, you will be brought back to the full court. I hope you enjoy your conversations. Have a wonderful time with it.
Thank you, Pam. We're just going to wait for our tech team to take care of sending us off.
Hi, President Cheryl. It's Michelle.
Hello, Michelle.
For ARW.
Tech M.
That's me, Tech M. I just want to tell you folks that this is different than the previous Zoom breakout room we had. This one, you'll just automatically go to a random room. So you may have to select go to room, and that might appear in the right-hand corner of your screen. If not, it'll just automatically send you there. So I'm going to open up the rooms now. Here we go. And we're in for 25 minutes.
Thank you, Michelle M.
Thank you.
Michelle with one L.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beam anyway.
Get them, yeah.
Oh, I hope you all had great conversations. Are we all back in together now?
Thanks, John. It looks like we are, President Cheryl.
All right. Thank you so much for the wonderful conversation. I even popped into a room for a few minutes and facilitated some conversation. So thank you all for, and I hope that whatever was on your heart got expressed. And if there was anything that, if somebody took minutes or there was a concern or a thought that you had that you want to share with the executive, I would encourage you to pass it on so that we can bring it forth. And look at that. Feedback is, look at that, my name's up. Okay, except that it's all lowercase, but other than that, my email address is in the chat already. So gosh, that Michelle is an amazing person. She just reads my mind, I swear. I think there might be a hidden camera here somewhere. I think she's spying on us. Anyways, thank you so much for our time together in the community building. We are at new business, and from what I understand, there was no new business that came forward by 9 o'clock last night. So we're going to get zipping along here in no time. Save the dates. What dates are we saving? Let me see.
President Cheryl.
Yes.
I'd like to. Yes. So there was no new business, and there's no unfinished business, which is nice. And so the save the dates that we have for the court, please mark your calendars for May the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th, 2024, for a tri-regional meeting at the Unifor Center in Port Elgin. I believe it will also be hybrid. Yes, I'm getting a lot of nods in the room here. Thank you, Michelle, for nodding your head, since tech, between you and John, I can't see John, but yeah. So please mark those dates, important dates, when our regional council comes together, and we get to celebrate with the other two regions as well, Horseshoe Falls and Western Ontario Waterways.
And the
moderator is coming and will be there to speak as well. Thank you.
I don't know why my Zoom is being crazy, but anyway. Thank you, Carrie.
And that's all I have, President Cheryl, and back to you.
Okay, well, we're just wrapping up here. Oh, we have sorry, Bob Mercer, you have a question? Comment?
Yeah, Bob Mercer, Corona United Church. Sorry about that. Could you repeat again, please, where the next meeting is going to be?
Sure. It's the the spring regional meeting. It'll be a tri-regional meeting. So we'll be with the other two. There you go. There's the information.
Wow. Don't even need my reading glasses.
It depends how large your screen is. So yes, and yes, our moderator Carmen Lansdowne will be there. So be sure to mark your calendars.
Thank you.
And it's a beautiful spot. I look forward to spending some time on the waterfronts. Okay. Any other? Okay. At this time, I would like to say some thank yous. Thank you to all of you for being the region. We are the region. All of those of you who are on here today, we are all the region. And I want you to keep that in mind. Yes, the executive is a smaller group, but we listen to your voice and we appreciate your words and your voice. But I also want to thank some specific people. In the room with me here, I have some incredible people. And down the hall, I shouldn't say that too. Carrie, thank you for being our business and agenda person today, keeping us on task and keeping us moving forward. Our worship team down the hall. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for your music. Mark is so much fun to have in the room, and Greg is a great speaker and preacher. So thank you very much to those guys down the way. Our amazing tech team, particularly Tech J and Tech M, thank you for your work in keeping us informed and reading our minds. Thank you to the staff, particularly Sue here and me, who's been keeping us in line here in the Stone Ridge. She's got a big job. And our other staff too, who presented this weekend as well. Thank you to our acting executive minister. Not only does he bring great treats, he runs a good meeting. So thank you very much, Mark.
You ran the meeting.
Well, okay. Yeah, I may have been chairing the meeting, but yeah, we really know who was, don't forget to say this. He's really good at being the voice in my ear. Thank you. To our chaplain, to our equity support, George, to so Kevin Steeper, of course, our chaplain, to our presenters, to our note takers and facilitators from this morning's presentations. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to note that our note takers were very punctual, and there was only one group. Oh, everybody has responded. So thank you. You guys are good. I appreciate the discussion that we've had. And of course, our parliamentarian, thank you, Brad. And our community builder, Pam, thank you so much for your video and for your time that you always participate, my good friend. And of course, a reminder to thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking this time. You must all be like me, you're church geeks, and you like spending time with it. I heard so much about people who are feeling a little lost, a little disconnected. And this is one way. It's not in person. It's not as great as being in person, but this is a one way to keep connected with your church. So thank you for being here this weekend.
Thank you, President Cheryl, and I'd like to invite past President Jane. I'm sorry, this is Acting Executive Minister Mark speaking, and there we have. Go ahead. Yeah, you're just still muted. There
we go. Hello, President Cheryl. How you doing now? You made it to the end.
I did. I'm still smiling.
And you're still smiling. Well, on behalf of all of us who are members and friends of the Antler River Watershed Regional Council, I want to extend my deepest thanks and gratitude to you for your leadership through your very first meeting. You only have 3 more to go. It's okay. And also for your theme, Cheryl, a time of renewal, and the 3 R's: rebuild, reconnect, and revitalize. After all that time in COVID and isolation and trying to work our way out of that, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air of renewal that you brought, and appreciate it very much, and look forward to your leadership and the going forward. So thank you for, I know, been there, done that. I know that first meeting especially is you know, kind of a pins and needles event and finger, white knuckle flying sort of thing. But you've done it well, and I hope, I speak for all of us, we appreciate it tremendously. So thank you so much for your leadership at this, your first regional council meeting. And we will look forward to what you have to offer in the coming months and during your tenure as president. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. I appreciate this. I'm getting a... Now I could just go, feels good to be done, to be pretty much done. We still have one more proposal.
And celebration of ministry
Well,
service.
we do have the celebration, but to me, that's just a really great opportunity to party. And I am looking forward. And I hope that if you're in the St. Thomas area, that you will join us at 60 West Ave at St. Andrews and join us for that celebration at 4 o'clock. And if you're not, don't forget, there's the link is somewhere in the chat. I know it was there earlier. Please join us online. It makes me feel good to know that our the internet is being used at St. Andrews for a really good purpose. So please, oh, look at that, Michelle. That Michelle, she's got it out there again. So in case you missed it the first time, you don't have to scroll all the way back through the chat. It's right there. It is. The live stream feed is right there. So we should be in good hands. I look forward to seeing you either there or online. Proposal 4.
Well, it's my great pleasure to bring proposal 4 to the court. And so this one is on page 41 of the workbook, and it has to do with what the Regional Council do, because what the issue is the work of the Regional Council continues between Regional Council meetings. So between now and the time we meet in May. Why is this issue important? Because we must be clear on how the work will continue. And so what the Regional Council can do and might do is entrust any unfinished business from this meeting to the executive. Also authorize the executive to fill any vacancies on the understanding that the appointments will be confirmed at the next Regional Council meeting. Direct the executive to plan to convey a meeting of the Regional Council in the spring of 2024. Entrust that the executive and commissions with the responsibilities and authority of the Antler River Watershed Regional Council in accordance with the Manual of the United Church of Canada and the Governance Handbook of the Antler River Watershed Regional Council. And of course, what might else you do? Close this meeting of the Antler River Watershed Regional Council at the close of the celebration of ministry service that's held today, Saturday, October the 28th at 4 p.m. at 60 West Ave, St. Andrews United Church. And if you get there early enough, I can give you a tour of the cemetery across the street where you can look at my headstone, even though I'm not there. I'm sure that's enticing to a number of you. So
so on Wednesdays, I have a walking group, and we've been walking through the cemetery. So next time, I'm going to look for Stover. Are there questions for clarification? Not seeing any. Anything to make this proposal better? I mean, what would be better than closing with a celebration of ministry? All right. Let's move it.
Then I so move the proposal number 4, President Cheryl.
And seconded by their acting executive minister. Any discussion? I don't think anybody objects to ending early.
Yeah, we're at half an hour ahead of schedule.
Yes, I like it duly noted that we finished half an hour early.
We still have worship.
Yes, we do still have worship, but the meeting is done half an hour early. Okay, let's have our vote. And we have a full vote. Imagine that. Nobody objected. Thank you all for being here. Oh, sorry. I do have to say carry. The motion is carried. I'll get hold of this yet. I'm just so excited to get onto the celebration of ministry. And our closing worship. Let's head back to down the hall.
Thank you so much, President Cheryl. What a blessing this has been. And indeed, I hope that many of us are feeling that this has been a time of renewal. And as we are renewing ourselves, sometimes there's some seeking that goes on, some looking for renewal. And we're going to use some words that remind us perhaps where we can do some seeking. So we're going to sing Voices United 356, Seek Ye First. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and God's righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ask and it shall be given unto you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We do not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Hallelujah, hallelujah. God of endless renewal, as we come close to the end of our time together, we pause to offer our deepest gratitude. We are thankful for each and every voice that has contributed, each heart that has engaged, and each hand that has offered itself in service. We began this weekend with evaluations, and so God of rebuilding, we thank you for the wisdom to assess the foundations of our work. As we strengthen the pillars of our communities of faith and our region, grant us the courage to mend what is broken, support what is lacking, and fortify what stands strong. We've heard new voices and considered the future through budget talks and candidate addresses. Spirit of reconnection, guide us as we align our resources and energy with the divine vision for our collective journey. Help us to hear you in the words of the emerging leaders and in the plans that pave our way forward. In our open discussions, we've shared what lies deep within us, our hopes, our fears, our questions, our concerns. Jesus, our revitalizer, empower us to take these reflections and turn them into actions that bring new life to our communities and to the whole world. As we engage in votes and look to future meetings, let us not forget the sacredness in every choice that we make and every date we set. May every decision be a step towards justice, each plan be a path to compassion, and may we be ever mindful of your presence in every detail. God, in your wisdom, you've gathered us here to rebuild, reconnect, and revitalize. As we part ways, may the work we've begun continue to flourish. May the renewal we've sought become the renewal we live, not just in our churches, but in our lives, in our relationships, and in our communities. In the assurance of what we hope for and the conviction of what we do not see, we say, Amen. And I think it would be impossible for that man to sit at the keyboard and for us to not sing Go Make a Difference. So you best get out of your chairs and dance around a little bit as we're just going to sing the chorus of this. Is that right? We're just doing the chorus, or are we doing the whole thing?
I think we could do
the whole thing.
Let's do the whole thing.
We're doing the whole thing, top to bottom, friends. Go make a difference. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. We are the salt of the earth, called to let the people see the love of God for you and me. We are the light of the world, not to be hidden but be seen. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. We are the hands of Christ, reaching out to those in need. The face of God for all to see. We are the spirit of hope. We are the voice of peace. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. So let your love shine on. Let it shine for all to see. Go make a difference in the world. And the Spirit of Christ will be with us as we go. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world.
Oh, there we go. My computer was giving me issues. Thank you all for being here. Hope to see you down at 60 West Ave at 4 o'clock. If not, see you online, or we will see you in the spring. Take care, my friends. Be well, and go make a difference.